In this video, we're going to look at increasing and decreasing functions. Now, if our derivative of x is greater than 0, we know that we have a positive gradient, therefore our function is increasing. If the derivative of our function is less than 0, then we have a negative gradient, so our function is decreasing. And if the derivative of our function equals 0, then we know that our function is a tangent. It's also a stationary point on our curve. So we want to find the interval for which the function f of x equals 3x squared plus 12x plus 1 is increasing. So we know that the derivative for an increasing function has to be greater than 0. So we're going to differentiate our function, which was 3x squared plus 12x plus 1. So the derivative of our function of f of x equals 6x plus 12, and we're going to set up an inequality because that's going to have to be greater than 0. So we can take out a common 6, and then we can divide both sides by 6, and we end up with x plus 2 is greater than 0, and then we're going to take away 2 from both sides, and that gives us x is greater than negative 2 to make this function an increasing function. So therefore, f of x equals 3x squared plus 12x plus 1 is increasing for any value of x that is greater than negative 2. Now in this example, we want to find the intervals for which y equals 4x cubed minus 20x squared plus 32x minus 7 is increasing, and that's when the derivative of the function is greater than 0. And we also want to know when this curve is going to be decreasing, and that's when the derivative of the function is less than 0. And so we're going to have to sketch the derivative in order to help us work out what values of this function are relevant. So the first thing we want to do is take our function, which is 4x cubed minus 20x squared plus 32x minus 7, and differentiate it with respect to x. So f dash x is going to be 12x squared minus 40x plus 32. And we want to work out what the roots are to help us with our sketch. So we're going to take out a common 4. That leaves us with 3x squared minus 10x plus 8. And we're going to factorize the bracket. So our magic number is 24, and we need multiples of 24 that are going to add together to give us negative 10. So that's negative 6 and negative 4. So we're going to substitute them back in. So we've got 4 upon 3x squared minus 6x minus 4x plus 8. We're going to factorize the first two terms. So we've got 3x as our common factor upon x minus 2 minus 4 upon x minus 2. And that means that we can calculate our roots using the brackets 3x minus 4 upon x minus 2. So we have one root at 3x minus 4 equals 0. So there's a root at x equals 4/3. And we've got another root at x minus 2 equals 0. So we have a root at x equals 2. Now we want to sketch this derivative. So we know that our roots are going through 4/3 and 2. And if we wanted to work out our y-intercept of our derivative, it would be at plus 32. And so we can then go back to our conditions for an increasing function. And we know that an increasing function is when f dash x is greater than 0, so it's above the x-axis. So for this function to be increasing, we need x to be less than 4/3, and we need x to be greater than 2. Now for decreasing, the derivative is less than 0, so it's below the x-axis. And so you can see for a decreasing function, our x value is going to be greater than 4/3, but less than 2. Now in our final example, we want to show that the function f of x equals 2x cubed minus 18x squared plus 54x minus 11 is never decreasing. So we know that the condition of our derivative for a never decreasing function will be one where it is greater than or equal to 0. So the first thing we do is take our function, which was 2x cubed minus 18x squared plus 54x minus 11, and we're going to differentiate it with respect to x, and that gives us 6x squared minus 36x plus 54, and our inequality is greater than or equal to 0. Take out that common 6, so we get x squared minus 6x plus 9 is greater than or equal to 0. And then we want to factorise that bracket, so we've got 6 upon x minus 3 all squared is greater than or equal to 0. Now that x minus 3 all squared bracket is always going to be greater than or equal to 0 for any value of x that you substitute into it, because anything squared is either going to be 0 or greater. So therefore 6 multiplied by the x minus 3 all squared bracket is going to be greater than or equal to 0 for any value of x. And that means that this function f of x equals 2x cubed minus 18x squared plus 54x minus 11 is never decreasing.